The time is 1:15. Here is the news, edited by Catherine Pereira, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The government has planned to implement a welfare program speedily in future. 27th session of FAO Regional Conference for Asia and Pacific inaugurated in Colombo. Minister Pa says that a proposal to reduce electricity tariffs to be submitted to PUCSL within 2 days. The Supreme Court conveys determination on anti-terrorism bill to the Speaker. South Korean doctors strike in protest of plans to add more physicians. Local news in detail. The government has planned to implement a welfare program speedily in future. State Minister Ranjit Sembalapete says that more than 200 billion rupees has been allocated this year in this regard. He made these remarks in Parliament today to a question raised by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa on implementing the Social Security Program and on farmers, fishermen and retired persons. Minister Sushil Premchand said that the increased food payment to the students of colleges of education will be provided from next month. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, accompanied by the FAO Director General Koo Dong-yew, today inaugurated the 37th session of the Regional Conference for Asia and Pacific APRC of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization at the Hilton Hotel Colombo. Several matters of concern, including the state of food and agriculture in the region, agri-food systems transformation and solutions, particularly for smallholders and family farmers, are said to be discussed at the high-level ministerial in-person in this event. The Supreme Court today conveyed its decision on the much-disputed anti-terrorism bill to Parliament Speaker Mahinda Abebadana. Accordingly, the Supreme Court determined that while several clauses of the proposed legislation require to be passed by a special majority, several other provisions of the anti-terrorism bill need to be passed by both a special majority and a referendum, unless amendments recommended by the Supreme Court are carried out. On 2nd of February, the Supreme Court concluded the hearing of the petitions filed challenging the government's new anti-terrorism bill, followed by the lengthy proceedings that continued for 6 days in total. 31 petitions had been put forward against the proposed legislation, which seeks to replace the controversial Prevention of Terrorism Act (PTA). This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. The Electricity Board is expected to hand over the proposals pertaining to the revision of electricity tariffs to the Public Utility Commission of Sri Lanka within the next 2 days. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara said. Wijesekara made this announcement while addressing the Parliament this morning, opening the ministry anticipations a significant reduction in the electricity tariffs. In the wake of an influx of tourists, particularly from Russia, following the implementation of the visa-free entry program, concerns have been raised regarding the involvement of some Russian female tourists engaging in illegal activities during their stay in Sri Lanka. In recent months, Sri Lanka has seen a surge in international visitors, particularly from countries like India, China and Russia, following the implementation of the free visa entry program. Sri Lanka's decision to implement a visa-free entry program for visitors from 7 countries, including Russia, is aimed at revitalizing the tourism industry, which suffered a severe setback following the Easter Sunday attacks, the COVID-19 pandemic and the political crisis last year. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Dr. Hossein Amir Abdullahi, arrived in the island on last night for a 3-day official visit. A delegation of 20 persons, including the Iranian Foreign Minister, were welcomed at the Bandar Naik International Airport in Katunaik by State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tariq Balsouria last night. He is scheduled to pay a courtesy call on President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. The visiting minister and his delegation will also have official discussions with Minister Ali Sabri at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That came to you on Main News Story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Opportunities will be given to the private sector to direct Sri Lankans for employments in agricultural sector in Israel. Only the Foreign Employment Bureau is acted in this regard earlier. The government of Israel is taking measures to develop the agriculture sector after the war. Many employment opportunities have been received by Sri Lanka in this sector. That ends Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines first. South Korean doctors strike in protest of plans to add more physicians. Russia accused of executing prisoners of war after Ukraine withdrawals. Indian farmers reject a government offer and say they will carry on marching to New Delhi. World News in detail. South Korea's government has ordered more than 1,000 junior doctors to return to work after many staged walkouts in protest of plans to increase the number of doctors in the system. More than 6,000 interns and residents had resigned on Monday, said officials. South Korea has one of the lowest doctor-per-patient ratio among OECD countries, so the government wants to add more medical school replacements. But doctors oppose the proposal of greater competition. Observers say South Korea has a highly privatized healthcare system where most procedures are tied to insurance payments and more than 90% of hospitals are private. Last week, Ukrainian forces surrendered the eastern city of Avdiivka, which they had for months been desperately defending against a brutal Russian onslaught. The conquest of Avdiivka represents a strategic and symbolic victory for Russia, strengthening its defense of the regional capital, Donetsk, and potentially opening up avenues for further offensives against Ukrainian-held territory. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrskyi says he ordered a retreat from the city in order to save soldiers' lives. Indian farmers who have been protesting for a week to demand guaranteed crop prices have rejected a proposal from the government and say they will continue their march to the capital, New Delhi. The protesting farmers began their march last week, but their efforts to reach the city have been blocked by authorities, who have used tear gas and heavily barricaded entry points into the capital to avoid a repeat of 2021 farm protests when they camped on the outskirts of over a year. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. South Korean doctors strike in protest of plans to add more physicians. Russia accused of executing prisoners of war after Ukraine withdrawals. Indian farmers reject a government offer and say they will carry on marching to New Delhi. That ends world news. Moving on to development news, Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena yesterday laid the foundation stone for the construction of new Laksala showroom called Laksala Ella at the Ella railway station, which will be implemented in a joint project by Sri Lanka Railways and Sri Lanka Handicrafts Board. It will be constructed under the financial provisions of Sri Lanka, and ground floor will be required with a public car park, and the first floor will be constructed as the Laksala showroom in a manner suitable for the tourism in the area. That kept you on development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Sri Lanka Cricket has announced the schedule for Sri Lanka's tour of Bangladesh 2024. Accordingly, the all-format tour will comprise of 2 Test matches, 3 T20 matches and 3 ODI matches. The series begins with the 3-match T20 series scheduled to be played on 4th, 6th and 9th of March at the Sylhet International Cricket Stadium, followed by the ODI series scheduled for 13th, 15th and 18th of March at the Zohar Ahmad Chowdhury Stadium. That ends sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Under the national program aimed at constructing an export-oriented manufacturing economy, the Industrial Development Board of Ceylon has initiated the Arambamu Jayagamu program to facilitate the global market entry of products. The promotional and awareness campaign for this program in the Kampa district is scheduled to take place at the Kurunegala Town Hall premises today from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, Interface Tourism, a leading marketing and communications agency in the tourism, has announced the launch of a groundbreaking wellness campaign to promote Sri Lanka targeted at the French and German markets. This initiative, commissioned by the European Union delegation with the support of Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, is a part of Sri Lanka's strategic effort to position itself a premier wellness destination in Asia. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
A few showers may occur in eastern and lower provinces in the morning. Showers of thunder showers may occur at few places in Sabargamulla province and in Gol and Matra districts in the evening or night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere. Fairly strong winds, about 30 to 35 km per hour, can be expected at times in the eastern slopes of the Central Hills and in north-central, northwestern, over southern and eastern provinces and in Matale and Kandy districts. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in western and Sabargamulla provinces during the morning. That ends weather report. To wrap up the afternoon news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The government has planned to implement welfare programs speedily in future. 37th session of FAO Regional Conference for Asia and Pacific inaugurated in Colombo. Minister Parr says that a proposal to reduce electricity tariffs to be submitted to PUCSL within 2 days. The Supreme Court conveys determination on anti-terrorism bill to the Speaker. South Korean doctors strike in protest of plans to add more physicians. With that, we wrap up the afternoon news on Radio Sri Lanka. The time is exactly 30 minutes down 1 o'clock. Till 2 p.m., let's listen to lunchtime music on Radio Sri Lanka.